There are so many situations surrounding things like books and video games in recent times that only bring a negative light to them. Look at video games, which people claim cause violence and emotional problems, and books that contain things like the situation we are about to discuss. People are always trying to draw a negative light to anything they can for many reasons. There is always some sort of narrative that they are trying to prove, even when it is about something that they do not understand, or they are trying to shift the blame, not wanting to try and acknowledge the actual factors behind events in our society. People are trying to spread false messages to others that say these things are awful and that they need to be censored or changed or removed from the hands of susceptible audiences. A Catholic school in Nashville has banned Harry Potter from their libraries because they claim the books include evil spells which, if read by a human, can conjure evil spirits and also conjure the dead. Apparently, the reverend at the school reached out to several exorcists in the United States and Rome, which all recommended that the school remove these books. And this school's quest to ban this book series actually began in 2009. So in the Harry Potter books, the characters cast spells which have verbal components to activate them, which have been crafted and assembled from fragments of other languages, but most notably Latin, which is what they are basing these claims off of. These Latin words are nothing more than phrases that can also be translated to English, and are nothing more than that. Phrases that refer to an action. Phrases that were made up by the author and have no basis on any religious writings from real life. So to believe they actually have any power or refer to anything that has ever existed seems pretty silly. And we are also discussing a book, mind you, that is a children's fantasy book that millions of people have read and enjoyed. I mean, it is estimated that every 1 in 15 people on Earth owns a Harry Potter book. I mean, if this situation started back when the books released, I am shocked no one is walking down the road flinging spells at someone else. With how dedicated some people are to their favorite hobbies, you would think that this would have happened about 5 years ago. In all seriousness, as ridiculous as this may seem, it is not a new situation to happen. Since the release of the series, it has made the list of top 100 most frequently challenged books of the decade from 1990 to 1999, even though they were only out for the ending of the decade, which did continue into the early 2000s. And when this was happening, there was a lot of backlash from people that believed the book should not be banned from educational settings due to its fictional nature. Another example of a title that had been banned from educational settings for different reasons was Catcher in the Rye, which is the heaviest censored book in United States history while censorship was still allowed in educational settings. There is also George Orwell's 1984, though this was not actually banned anywhere. This is just a highly challenged title. These are just some examples of many books that were censored or challenged in the United States in the past. One of the most famous examples of a book or a game that religious groups wanted banned back in the early 80s was Dungeons and Dragons, with claims that it was demonic in nature, that it promoted things like murder, witchcraft, suicide, assassination, gambling, cannibalism, sadism, divinations, and many other outrageous claims. This even culminated in the 1982 movie Mazes and Monsters, which was based on an actual event of a missing person, which was incorrectly attributed to their love of the game. People feared that Dungeons and Dragons had power over young minds, that it heightened things like depression because it was a game that is used as an occult tool that opens minds to the influence or possession by demons. And luckily, the views of role-playing games have changed over the past 40 or so years, but there is still heavy criticism aimed towards games by devout religious groups. Whether you are a religious person or not, or if you believe in the Bible, is not what we are arguing here. I am not arguing the validity of religion. We are discussing the contents of a child's fantasy book, and the idea of magic has been part of children's stories dating back to the Grimm fairy tales and before. Just like with banned books, Dungeons and Dragons, video games, and other forms of media, this is just another case of religious zealots overreacting and not understanding what they are looking at. Just like with victories in the past with Catcher in the Rye, which was unbanned from all schools in 1982, we must be vigilant in not letting this type of ignorance continue. Unfortunately, religion, which has been used for both good and bad, has been used many times in our history to control what others see, hear, and say. And this is no different than people trying to control what we see, hear, and say in the name of hate speech and inclusion. And whenever this happens, it is always going to be a downward spiral to censorship and control. But that is all that I wanted to discuss today. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to give it a like, and if you did not, make sure to give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I will talk to you all in the next video really soon.